Thank you, Alex. Recording in progress. Wonderful. In the reactions tab in the bottom, there is a raise hand function. I would love to do a really quick poll, so you can just use that raise hand function. How many of you have been on the SC Codes platform prior to tonight? Awesome. Oh, great. Wonderful. So about 50-50 of our attendees this evening. So that's wonderful. So feel free to lower your hand. Thank you. Great. So some of this won't be brand new to some of you, but hopefully we can get you even further plugged in and know of all the things that you can do to take advantage of being part of our SC Codes community. So again, welcome. Okay, we like to start here because sometimes there are people that are going to show up to tonight's info session and not even really truly know what this whole software development coding thing is. And that is a-okay. We love folks who are coming in brand new and learning everything there is to see if this is something that they would enjoy doing. So put very simply, coding is telling a computer what you want it to do in their language. And so you'll hear us, especially once Alex starts sharing our what we have available on our platform, you're going to hear us talk about different coding languages. And so we'll dive into a little bit more of like what each of those kind of do. And if you're interested in maybe the front end and how things look and feel versus the back end, where if you're really into data, we'll kind of dig into those as well. But as we go through, you'll hear us talk about several different languages. And really the most important thing to know when we talk about those is it doesn't really matter which language you pick to start with. So don't get hung up on that too much. If you're a new person, we'll help guide you from there. As you're out in the world, you may also hear any of these titles, and there are lots more as well. And so we always like to kind of call those out. You'll hear us potentially swap in and out or use interchangeably programmer, software engineer, software developer, and we're all referring to essentially the same thing. And so all of these job titles have to do with writing code, just a little bit different in what the actual outcome is or what that specialty is. So as you hear these, or as you are beginning to maybe search the internet and see like, what is it that I want to specialize in, or which of these do I want to become, or which of these is most prevalent or needed the most in South Carolina, you can kind of keep that in mind as you're navigating through what can be kind of a confusing thing. So and then what is SC Code? So several of you kind of already know because you've been on our platform, but we are a collaboration between Build Carolina, which is that overarching nonprofit I mentioned in my introduction, and the South Carolina Department of Commerce. So South Carolina Department of Commerce is our biggest funder and keeps us up and running, and they actually helped start SC Codes. SC Codes started in just one library in Greenville as a small in-person course, and it has grown to be a statewide, completely free program that anyone can access as long as they have access to the internet. So we are really excited to be celebrating almost, 4 years of SC Codes. So anyways, we're really excited, and we're excited for the future of what SC Codes will continue to be and grow into. So, but the most, important thing or the biggest kind of pieces of what makes up SC Codes is first and foremost our free online curriculum. And so we are a service provided to South Carolina residents of a completely free place you can come and you can dabble, you can explore, like no matter what your background is, no matter where you are in that coding journey, you can come to SC Codes and there's a place for you. So we offer 11 different courses. Nick's cat showed up, wonderful, excited about that. Pets and kids and are always welcome, especially in the evenings. So we have many courses that Alex is going to walk us through in just a moment. But really what sets us apart is we have an amazing mentor program. And so we have mentors available, mentors who are working as software developers here in our state, who are looking to be paired with learners. So they support learners in one-on-one settings. They teach some of our classes, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment as well. But that's one of the things that really sets us apart from a lot of other free online learning platforms, is that we're a small team, but you can always reach out to us and we'll help navigate you wherever it is that you want to go. We also offer virtual and in-person classes. So this is this isn't a class, but this is one of the virtual events that we offer every month, which is an info session. And we also do a JavaScript concepts course, which is a really great starting point for anyone who comes onto our platform. And so we do a one-night, 3-hour-long virtual course. We try to do that every month, led by either Alex or one of our mentors, and walks you through kind of the basics. And at the end, I believe you kind of walk away with like the ability to write your own little website, right, Alex? Yeah, cool. And so lots of cool things happening, and we hope to continue to add more courses and more virtual sessions as we grow and as we continue moving forward. So we also offer a career support course. So if you are to the point in your journey and in your education where you're ready to start looking for that first developer role, we can help give you some best practices for that. And then we also bring in cool people sometimes to share, whether that's via an Instagram Live, a Zoom conference, or webinar like this. And so we are always trying to figure out what it is that folks need and what they want to learn more about. And then we cater our events and our platform around that. So you all are really vital into like what the future of SC Codes looks like. So any ideas that you have or things that you would like to see as you kind of navigate through our site, let us know. We're always open to feedback and always open to fun ideas of things that we can add. And so why do we exist? So why on earth is Department of Commerce giving money to this, nonprofit to offer this free education in our state? And quite simply, South Carolina really needs tech talent. Tech makes up 6% of our state's economy, total economic impact of $89 billion. Some of this data is a little outdated, but I always like to, even though this is 2020 data, the 29,000 plus tech job postings during 2020, I leave this on here because y'all, that was in the midst, the height of the pandemic. There were more jobs posted during that, I think, than maybe even the year before. I mean, it was something insane because everything is moving online. Everything was moving from brick and mortar to more e-commerce. And so the need for people who could write code and build cool things actually grew during 2020. And so programmer being that leading occupation category. So it's very cool. Currently, if you look at Indeed.com, there are over 500 open software engineering jobs in South Carolina right now. And that was right before we jumped in. I update this slide like right before we get started every time. So this is really up to date. And 65 of those are entry level. And that's just today, our random day. Sometimes this number is over 1,000. I mean, it really varies, but there are always hundreds of available software engineering roles in South Carolina. So again, there's a huge need for talent and folks who can fill these roles. Over 130,000 people are currently employed in tech in South Carolina. And the annual mean wage for a developer in South Carolina is $88,000. That has been steadily going up over the few years that we've been doing these info sessions. And so that is about almost double what the annual mean wage is in South Carolina across all industries. So again, great opportunities, not only as far as availability of jobs, but also availability of good salaries and growth potential. So
And hey, I want to kick something in on this before we
Please.
move too far past that economic need in the state and all the jobs that are available. One of the great things about working in tech and building your technical skill set is, yeah, you could take on a programming job. You could go be a software engineer. You can get that big salary. You can write code and build cool things, but you can also disrupt the industries that you're in. You can help influence them. You can help build tools that make life easier for the folks around you without making a big change. And so just having this skill set, it's something that you can apply wherever you're at right now to level yourself and the people around you up. That's really what tech work is about, is automation and improvement and making life easier for everyone by kind of passing the work off to the computer. So learning how to speak to computers in their language, learning how to solve really difficult problems with technical solutions is something that will improve your life and the life of the people you work with right where you're at right now. It's not something you have to commit to a major career change for. And I always like to remind folks about that. These are skills you can use almost anywhere in today's economy.
Thank you, Alex. That's such a good point. This does not have to be this big life-changing thing. But it's a great skill to have kind of no matter what. Oops, let me see here. All righty. And so a couple of you already have gotten started, but what are the best ways to get started? We recommend, if you go to sccodes.org, our homepage, you'll see a couple different learning tracks. And if you're brand new, we'd recommend you check out our Explorer track. And this is just going to take you to a web page that's going to show you our recommendations for getting started, as well as some other resources. So we link to resources outside of SC Codes because we know that there's a lot of really good content out there. And so we, our team of tech people, Alex included, and many of our mentors have shared some of their go-to resources from when they were learning how to code. So lots of great stuff there. And then we also are going to invite you tonight to join us on Slack. So if you're not familiar with Slack, it is a free messaging platform that's used by a lot of tech companies and is actually moving into non-tech as well. It's very prevalent. And it's just a very easy way to stay connected with us. It's also a great way to connect with your mentor. And so Alex dropped a link in the mentor chat, or I'm sorry, in the meeting chat, that if you would like to join and then get connected with a mentor, we would love to have you over there. We have almost, I think, 1,000 folks who are part of our SC Codes community on Slack, and we have different, actually, I'm jumping ahead because my next slide talks more about Slack. So, and then connect with a mentor is another way to get started. We'll share more about how to do that, and then join us for a virtual course. Our next one, I will have to check and see when it's coming up, but we are always adding new things to the calendar and hope that you can join us there. A little bit more about Slack. There are a couple of really great resources in Slack as well. And so these are, I'm calling out just a few different channels. And so if you're brand new to Slack, this might look a little overwhelming. And it can be a little overwhelming, but we have different channels within the workspace that are specific to a topic. And actually, this is a little bit outdated. This is, we used to have it broken down by regions, and then we decided to bring everybody together and condense it into a couple more more cohesive and more broad channels. And so we do have an announcements channel. So if there are cool things happening in the state, this is an old screenshot, but there was the All Things Open in 2021, that conference. We got free tickets that we were able to share a code with our learners, whoever wanted to come and join that. And so anything cool like that we'll share there. We also have a code help channel, and it has been very busy the last few days, which I love to see. And that is if you are learning and you just need help and want to throw some code into that channel and be like, why is this not working? You can do that. And then there are a bunch of mentors who hang out in there and are happy to help you. So it's a very cool community. And definitely would encourage you to join if you're, no matter where you are, if you're just getting started and need help, or if you're ready to look at our career help channel. And so here we'll place, we'll throw in cool articles. There's the tech, hiring best practices are kind of always changing and trying to move forward and be more forward thinking. And so sometimes we'll throw cool articles in there. We'll throw entry-level job postings in there. So it's a good place to be. And then you can also ask for help. And we're happy to help as we can with resumes, different things like that. We'll get our mentors plugged in to help you put your best foot forward when you're ready to start looking for a job. And then lastly, before I hand it over to Alex, just to talk about mentorship a little bit more. Again, this is one of the pillars of what we do. And we can offer that mentorship again through Slack, as I mentioned. And you can also reach out to me or Morgan, whose email is linked there at the bottom. She is unfortunately leaving our team. So for the next few weeks, she will still be your contact. But beyond that, and she's happy to get you connected. In the meantime, after that, you can let myself or Alex know, but you can reach out to us on Slack. You can send us an email. We'll get you paired in a one-on-one capacity if we have the mentors available and you are interested in that. And then again, we have mentors that help lead virtual courses and some in-person courses. And actually why Morgan isn't here virtually tonight is because she's in Columbia at the Richland County Library doing an info session and going to be launching a series of courses there. So if you're in the Columbia area, which I know some of you are, check out when we're doing some things in person so that you can come and join us at the library. All right, and then I'm going to pause there, and Alex is going to walk us through the platform, but anything kind of more general questions about SC codes, this is a great time to ask. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Alex can share his in a moment. But any questions that aren't specific to the courses themselves that anyone has right now?
So I always like to remind folks, because this question inevitably comes up. Everything that we're going to show you tonight, all of our courses, everything Katie shared with you is totally free. This is a workforce development program. We want to keep these tech skills in our state. We want to help our state grow and thrive in this type of work. And so we will never ask you for a dime to join our communities, to spend time with our mentors, to go to these in-person or online classes. All of this is delivered free. This is your tax dollars at work. So if anyone ever tells you that you need to pay for something here, let us know, because it won't come from us.
That's right. Awesome. All right, Alex, I will let you take over and show us the platform.
Right on. I can do that. So y'all, we call this the platform. It's a fancy word for a website, so don't feel too intimidated. I am going to start out on our main site. This is sccodes.org. Now, as Katie mentioned, we've got lots of cool events. You can find those right up here in the top right side of your screen by just clicking on events. We're still kind of mapping out our spring and summer, but you can see here we've got the info session at the library tonight that Katie mentioned, the session you're in now. And we've got a session for folks interested in volunteering coming up at the end of the month. So there's lots of opportunities here, whether you're looking to learn or to give back, or even a little bit of both. It will help you find the right path that works for you. The other thing that I want to call out on our website is our tracks. And Katie mentioned this Explorer track. That's a great place to start. But we actually have kind of 4 groups that we're trying to serve at the same time. The first is the Explorer. This is somebody brand new. I don't know what coding is. My friend told me this might be a cool job. I'm interested in learning more. You're an Explorer. Welcome. That's great. The Explorer page right here at the bottom will give you lots of resources, tips, and tricks from all of our mentor pool, collected knowledge about how you can get started on the right foot. If you already know a little bit about programming, don't have to know anything about coding or how to write it, but you know this is a path you want to devote yourself to, there's a career changer track. This is for somebody who knows they want to make that big jump. It's going to be a little bit more intense. We're going to give you a little bit longer of a timeline. And it's not so much dipping your toe in the pond as it is jumping all the way in. And we're here to support you in that journey as well. If you're just looking to upskill, you're working in a job that you know things could be done in a more efficient way, or you're a hobbyist and you want to learn how to apply your craft to something that can really help others, we can help you with that. If you're looking to level up, you're already an experienced programmer, but you want to learn about teaching, or you want to dive deeper into the languages you know, we can help support you in that as well. And then finally, if you're a job seeker, you already have the skill set. Maybe you went to a boot camp, maybe you're self-taught like me. That's my background. We'll help you get that first job, or move into that second job, or change your title where you're at, seeking a promotion. Anything that has to do with career support, we're here to help you with that as well. So this isn't limited to just learning how to code and letting you go on your own. We've got resources available for you from, I don't know what code is, to I'm ready to be a senior engineer. We really want to be part of that track. Now let's look at the courses. This is really the bread and butter of our platform. When you click courses, it's going to take you over to our course library. And right now, these are the courses that we have available to you. Now, it can be a little bit overwhelming if you don't know anything at all about programming. There's a lot of new words here, new topics. We'll do a quick cover over those. The place to start is always going to be our learner's guide. Your learner's guide is going to teach you how to use our platform, how to navigate, how to sign up for a course, how to complete our assignments. It's going to teach you a little bit about our history and our background, like we've talked about tonight. And it's going to make recommendations for where to go next. Now, we offer sort of two classes of programming. There's something called front end and back end. And here's your first like baby computer science lesson for the evening. When you think about a web application, the application can be broken up into two sections, your front end and your back end. It's really similar to the front of house or back of house in a restaurant. Front end is everything that your clients, your users interact with. It's the things you see happening. It's the dynamic behavior on the site. When I move my cursor over each of these little cards, see that shadow? That's happening on the front end. The colors, the fonts, everything you see, all that interaction happens on the front end of the page. And so as a front end programmer, you're thinking about, how do I interact with users? How do I accept when someone clicks on a button? What should happen? That's front end programming. Back end programming is more like you think of the matrix. It's not as shiny, it's not as pretty, but there's a lot of data, there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of interesting, difficult challenges to solve that require you to think more like a computer. And I want to be clear, because this always comes up, that doesn't mean you have to be a math expert. This isn't math problems, this is programming problems, solving technical problems. So don't be intimidated if you're not a fan of trigonometry or anything like that. You'll very rarely touch that, if at all. Programming is not as math heavy as people tend to think it is. So the backend's fun if you like to think in terms of systems. How do these devices interact with each other? Not necessarily what the user's doing, but how do the computers talk and how can I get into that conversation? Backend's the place to be. We approach front end using a language called JavaScript. Now, you may have heard of Java. That's a different language. We do have a little introduction to it. Java is more for building mobile apps for like an Android phone, or apps that will run on different devices, like say a refrigerator or even on a satellite. JavaScript will run anywhere. It's kind of the native language of the web. Its primary use is as a front end language. So if you're interested in that front end, you're interested in some of that cool interactivity, we'll start you off with one of our concepts courses. And a concepts course means this should take you at most a weekend to complete. You might be able to knock it out in an evening. Take a few hours to sit down if you have no experience. And by the end of a concepts course, you'll be able to write some really simple code. You'll have gone through a few projects and you'll be ready to know if this is something for you that you want to dive deeper into, or you've experienced it and maybe it's not the right fit, which is totally fine too. There's very low commitment. And one of the great things about our concepts level courses is there's nothing to download. You can do it on any computer. You can do it on most mobile devices. You can do it on your tablet, your iPad, your TV. If it hooks up to the internet, you can work on there. There's no sort of compatibility issues. All you need is the internet and a screen, and you can go through a concepts course. Now, if you like that concepts course, if you want to go deeper, then we offer basics level courses. Basics courses are going to take you from, hey, I know a little bit about programming, to I can confidently discuss what this language is doing. You're going to build projects throughout a basics course. You're going to have a tiny little portfolio at the end with 1 or 2 projects that you wrote that you could take to somebody else and say, hey, look what I did. And one of the great things about our basics courses is, again, you can run almost all the code right inside your web browser. So you don't need any special device. You don't need to download anything. You don't even need a super fast internet connection. We've tried to make this as accessible as possible to a broad audience. Now, let's say you do a concepts and a basics course and you go, yes, I like this. I'm ready. I'm on that career changer track. That's when we step up to our applications level courses. Applications level courses are big. These are more what you think of as a boot camp level course. So whereas concepts might take you a weekend, a basics level course might take you a week of working in the evenings, an applications level course will probably take you a few months. If you're working totally by yourself, could take 6 months to a year. If you're working in one of our cohorts where there's some support and some accountability, we might be able to knock it out in 2 or 3 months. But at the end of an applications level course, you're ready for your first job. You're going to build a portfolio in the language of your choice. You're going to have a really solid understanding of how that language and the tools around it work. And you're going to be able to take that code out and say, hey, I built this. I'm ready to get that internship, that apprenticeship, or even that first junior level position. We have 2 tracks you can follow. There's a front end and a back end certification pathway. And if you click on one of these on the platform, you'll see we show you the 3 courses that are part. So if you start with front end and you like it and you want to keep going with JavaScript, you can complete that whole certification pathway. And at the end of those 3 courses, via email, you'll get a certificate showing that you did complete this pathway and that you're ready to roll for whatever that next step is. If instead you like backend, we've got the same thing in a language called Ruby. Ruby's fun. It works on the back end primarily, but Ruby was designed as a language for programmer delight. It is meant to read a lot like English. It's meant to be very friendly. It's fun to learn, and you can do a lot with it really quickly as a result. So if you're interested in backend, this is a great language to start with, and we'll take you all the way from the very basics of the language up through that applications level where you're really building large apps and you're ready to take this stuff out to an employer. We have a few other courses here that can be helpful. We talk about command line basics. So if you're working on a MacBook, which tends to be the default device for a lot of programming jobs, this will teach you how to talk to the computer through the command line, how to interact with the computer natively. If you're looking for that career support, we've got lots of resources in our career support course. This will talk you through how to write a resume and proof your own resume, as well as resources you can use for inspiration. It'll talk you through how to apply for jobs and some interview skills. It's a good thing just to touch on if you're thinking about interviewing. It's a good kind of refresher course. Then, as I mentioned, we do have Java concepts. If you're interested in mobile development and want to get a little taste, that's a small course to whet your appetite and see if that's a direction you want to go. And finally, if you're interested in being a mentor, you're interested in growing your skills by teaching others or sharing your knowledge, our mentorship guide will give you some tips and strategies for how to be a great mentor that you can take either into SC Codes as one of our volunteer mentors or into your own organization to help level up the folks around you. Does anybody have any questions about our content, how to get to these courses, or how to get started? And I see a couple things in chat here, so I'll catch up. Oh, good. Looks like, Brooke, you're set. There will definitely be some in-person meetings soon. All right. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll pass it back over to Katie. I think we're going to head into Q&A here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely have plenty of time for any and all questions, and this can be about SC Codes. This can be about any of our courses. It can also be kind of general tech in South Carolina. Alex is especially well versed. I've been in and around it long enough to have a pretty good finger on the pulse of the industry, and so we're always happy to talk about that as well. But I do see that Lauren has a question. So once we complete the courses, we will be ready to start working, or would we need to take a certification test? Lauren, great question. So within software development, it's a little bit different than with what you traditionally think of with like an IT certification. And so there aren't really many certifications, at least none that really the industry is particularly like bent on finding folks and hiring folks in. It's more about the skills that you gain. And so what we encourage you to do if you complete a certification pathway is then you're going to be prompted to build some projects, and we want you to continue building and build a portfolio. So a portfolio, so that can be your own personal website with examples of your projects that you've built. That is going to be the best selling point versus any formal certification or degree. Those things are great in certain sectors of tech and really necessary in certain sectors of tech. But when it comes to software development specifically, employers want to see what you can do versus what, check marks do you have when it comes to those, certification or degree requirements. And I'm sure Alex has some stuff to add to that.
Yeah, I can totally build on that. That's a good intro, Katie. So the key thing is In the United States specifically, there are some countries where this is different, but in the United States, there is not a central body that certifies you as a software engineer. There may be certain jobs, certain tasks that you're going to perform, or certain companies that you want to work for that have certifications they value. That's something you'd want to talk to that employer about, or talk to folks who work there and say, hey, I really like this company. If I want to work there, are there certifications that matter? But just like Katie said, it's a very practically oriented industry, meaning if you're practicing, if you're building things, if you can go into an interview and show, hey, here's what I can do. I can speak confidently about this language. I understand what it means to build software, and I'm ready to help you build yours. That's really all you need to get in the door. We can help you with certifications if there are things you're interested in. There's things you want to specialize in, or topics you want to dig more deeply into. That's a great reason to connect with one of our mentors. They'll be well-versed in what's available and what's out there, and we can help you sort of plan a path to say, hey, if you want to do this kind of work, here are the certifications you'll need to do. Here are resources that can help you get there. But if you've completed our courses and you feel great about, hey, I've finished the front-end certification pathway, I'd like to keep working with JavaScript, we can help you find somewhere that'd be your first job where you're getting paid to write code, which is a great feeling the first time it happens. And every time after, really. So I'll follow up with Brooke's question here too. How do apprenticeships work? How much experience is needed, or is it entry level? I'm interested in being a front-end developer. So Brooke, apprenticeships vary wildly. Just like the word internship, apprenticeship doesn't have a really specific meaning. It goes from company to company or implementation to implementation. We, through Build Carolina, do have our own apprenticeship. It's not an entry-level apprenticeship. That requires you have some experience. You do have to pass a small technical interview. It's nothing major, but we want to make sure that you're ready to work day one of that apprenticeship, since you will be working with a company live as part of the apprenticeship program. There are other companies that will bring you in with no experience. I know there's a couple in Greenville that used to do that. I think there was one in Charleston that did that for a while. So as you're kind of doing research, if you find a company that offers an apprenticeship, it's always nice to reach out and ask and just say, hey, here's my experience level. Here's some of the work I've done. Is this something that I might qualify for? And depending on the company, they may be ready to take you in, or they may be able to give you feedback to say, yeah, we actually need to do a little more work. Or maybe if you get this certification or focus on this technology, then we could consider you at a later date. Does that help answer your question, Brooke?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
No worries. Happy to answer.
Awesome. And I did put a link to Develop Carolina, which is our apprenticeship program. If there are folks who do have experience writing code, and so you've kind of gotten further along in your educational side of things and are ready to get the on-the-job training. But also, Brooke, since you're in Columbia, check out Create Opportunity. They are I think they are through Midlands, or they partner with Midlands Tech, and they take you from like no experience, as long as you have the aptitude. They do an entry test. And if you pass that, and it's not development specific, the test, it's more just to gauge your ability to learn it. They will put you through that. And I think it's a 2-year long program, but I believe most of it's paid.
Okay, I didn't know that. What is it called? Create Opportunity?
Yes, and I put the link in the chat. So if you Google Create Opportunity Columbia, you should find it also. Definitely check them out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Nice. Thanks for sharing all that, Katie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rhino has a couple questions here. I'm going to start with the first one. I see a lot about mentorship in programming. What are some ways to use mentorship, and what is appropriate? So Ryan, I'm going to try to answer that question, and maybe you could give me some more detail to make sure we're on the right track. Ultimately, because this is such a practically oriented industry, mentorship is one of the best ways to learn. It's a lot closer to a trade skill, something like being an electrician or a plumber, than it is to something like being a doctor, where there's lots of academic knowledge required and you're going through a structured program. Most developers, even if they go through a computer science program and train in traditional fashion, still come out and need practical support to get started. Just like if you learned about fluid dynamics in college, you couldn't come out and immediately replumb a toilet. You'd need to do it a few times to practice, right? So that's where mentorship comes in. And that's one of the reasons we've really doubled down on the idea that we're a community and not just a learning platform. The best way to learn is ask people about your particular situation, talk about the kind of jobs you want to do. And that's where mentorship comes in. Are you interested in receiving mentorship? Are you interested in being a mentor? What fits best with where you're at?
Yeah, receiving mentorship. I just don't know how to go about it. I can do some things in Python and JavaScript, but I also know from trying to look at other people's projects, trying to get oriented to someone else's code is takes some work. And so, I'm hesitant to just throw out and like, hey, here's a project I'm working on. What do you think? So, trying to find like, what is the middle ground of like getting practical feedback on code I'm writing without being like, hey, here's my front and back end for something, ideas so.
Yeah. So I will challenge you a little bit. Learning in public is a great way to learn, and it's hard. I'm not saying that like, oh, it's easy. Just throw your code out there. It is very, very difficult. It's very intimidating, but with that vulnerability comes a lot of opportunity to learn from others. So you'll see folks on sites like LinkedIn and Twitter and even GitHub with some of the social features sharing the projects they're working on and getting feedback out in public. That's a great way to learn. There's no shame in that at all. You'll learn fast for sure. Mentorship is a great way to do that in more of a safe environment where you can build a relationship with somebody who knows your goals. So being able to go to somebody in a one-on-one meeting once a week and say, hey, let's spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour every now and then. Let's look at your code together. We'll do a review. We'll talk through some things you can improve and maybe share some resources that you can look at for next time. That's a great way to grow in more of kind of a siloed and targeted approach. Unfortunately, when you learn in public, you'll have lots of people who are like, you made a typo, you're dumb. And that's frustrating. So
Sure.
You can avoid some of that kind of frustration by having a mentor who you work with more closely.
And that also won't happen on our Slack community either.
Exactly.
Like it's a very safe space to throw out code and just like be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that, Katie. Yeah, you'll find our community is not the only one. We are really supportive of any community that's helping people learn, helping people grow, and we'll send you to the right place, even if that's not us. So the way we typically handle mentorship like that is we'd pair you with somebody to get to know you a little bit, get to know your goals. If we know you've worked with Python and JavaScript, we may find somebody who has that background and can help you right away. But if you pair up with one of our mentors and they get to know you and say, hey, I'm not the right person, they can bring us a little more information and we can pair you with somebody who is the right person, because that relationship is really important. And we want to make sure it's a relationship that can grow with you. So you're not just ping ponging person to person for the next 6 months while you try to learn.
And would I reach out to one of y'all if I were wanting to get connected, or just go on Slack, or both?
So you could email Morgan at sccodes.org. As Katie mentioned, Morgan's going to be our volunteer coordinator for the next few weeks. You can also hop on Slack. We have the Code Help channel, and you can just raise your hand there and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm working on Python, working on JavaScript, want to take it to the next level. Can anybody help? And you'll have a little bit of public feedback from folks who can help, but we'll also reach out to you to see about setting up more of a one-on-one relationship. Yeah, cool. Great questions. So I have one question that someone actually private messaged me, but I think it's a really good question. So I'm going to share it with the group. Are there any jobs that will allow us to work while we're learning? This is one of the coolest things about working in any sort of technical role. You can absolutely learn while you hold down a job. Now, you get out of any learning path what you put into it, right? It's going to take you a little bit longer if you're putting 30 minutes a day into something than if you're putting 3 hours a day. But you can learn in 30 minutes a day. You could learn in 15 minutes a day. You can learn on the weekends. You can learn around your own schedule. That's one of the great things about tech in general. That's also one of the reasons our program's totally open. We don't gate any of this content. If you think you know a little bit and you want to start at basics level, go for it. If you start a concepts course in JavaScript and you don't like JavaScript, go try Ruby. We try to keep things as open as possible so that it works with your schedule and you can explore freely. There are not a ton of, what's the right way to phrase this? If you're interested in tech as a career, you will likely get to a point where you're doing it full time. But there is a lot of gig work available as a technical consultant as well. So if you learn a little bit about how to build a website, there are 3 languages that are really popular for website building. They're called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we mentioned. We teach all 3 as part of our front end track. you learn a little bit about websites and you say, hey, I want to make a little money on the side. I'm going to go out to Upwork. I'm going to go out to Fiverr. I'm going to go out to a gig site and advertise myself and say, hey, if you've got a website, let me give a shot at fixing it up. Let me tweak it for you. Let me update your content each month, whatever that looks like. You can make pretty good money just on the side, nights and weekends, supporting folks with those skills. So this goes back to the stuff we talked about before even talking about our platform, talking about kind of the career demand in South Carolina. This doesn't have to be a full-time job to be something that can really change your life and let you support the work you do already, support a new line of work, support a side hustle. That kind of stuff is out there. So it doesn't have to be an uproot your life and become a software engineer. It's something you can learn on your own time and really continue to grow and earn with. In terms of our program specifically, if you're interested in a boot camp program, which is very fast paced, we do have Carolina Code School. That one requires you to be full-time. It's a 12-week program. It's very accelerated. There's not really room for you to hold down a job during that program. Our apprenticeship is 24 weeks, but again, it's a full-time program. The nice thing about that is it's paid. You're working for a company during the entirety of the program. You're getting paid during the entirety of the program. And hopefully at the end of the program, you've got a new job with that company you've apprenticed with. No guarantees, but we do our best to make sure that that's the final outcome for you. SC Codes is a totally open platform. So you can learn on this platform in as much time as you have. I always recommend folks set aside time every day. But even if that's just 5 or 10 minutes to go review a lesson or write a couple lines of code, having that repetition and building that habit is what will help these new skills stick.
Awesome. And we have another question well, let's go back to, I don't want to skip ahead. So Ryan, silly question, but I'm sure it varies. But what in general would count as having some programming experience? It's a really great question. And so is this kind of in reference to the apprenticeship program that was mentioned? Okay.
Sure. And I just have no idea what's considered, even like entry level, you could do something, right? Like there, there's you can put on a little counter in JavaScript, and then there's, actually connecting something in terms of a back end and whatnot. So I have no idea what constitutes as like, here's your hobby. Here is like, you can actually maybe do something.
Yeah. It's a hard line to find because every company's needs are different. Every project's needs are different. And the way you want to work is one big decider there. If you're working on this as a side gig and you just want to work on websites, that little JavaScript counter may be all you need. I can do little tweaks. I can change the content of your site. I can change the background color, update the font, pay me $100. That pays for dinner for the weekend. We're good to go. So that may be all you need in terms of a little bit of experience. It's really going to depend on what your goals are and what programs you want to be in. For our apprenticeship program, the experience that we expect is that you could drop into a real live application in at least one language and start contributing within the first week. So what that looks like is usually you have a portfolio of work that we can review. Doesn't have to be an extended portfolio. That doesn't mean years of work, but just a few projects so we can see how you code, what kind of work you've done, and how you like to work. And as part of our interview, we do a little technical interview where we walk through some code together, talk about how you might implement it, maybe even write some of that code to make sure that, we can call your bluff, just in case you say, oh, I'm really good at programming. And then we find out you copied a lot of code from somewhere. Not that you would. I'm sure you're as good as you say you are, but just in case, that's our filter there. So that doesn't mean you have professional experience. That doesn't mean you've been paid for your work. One of the things that, honestly, this is very personal to me because I was a hobbyist for 20 years before I came into this industry full time. And I probably could have jumped into the industry 15 years before I did. There's a quote that I really love that has actually come up a couple times today. It's funny how that happens. It says, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so if you already know enough to say, hey, JavaScript, you can put a little counter on a page. To a lot of people, that looks like magic. To a lot of people, that's already like, wow, you changed the website. If you open up View Source on a browser, a lot of people don't know this. You can open up a web page and see the code on the page. And you can change the text on the page. And it's only changing on your computer. It's a way to preview changes. But if you do that, some people get really scared. You just put my name on the internet. Why'd you do that? Anything sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. So as soon as you start learning these skills, you become a magician to everybody around you. And that's why it's so hard to know what your level of experience should be. It's really going to depend on the companies you apply at. And it's something that you need to work with other people who can give you feedback and say, here's where you're at, here's where you need to be. So Brooke has a great question with a really easy answer. That is, what's the best platform to store a portfolio? The answer to that is a site called github.com. And I will even put that link in the chat. GitHub is the best known place to store your code online. It acts really as a resume for you as a developer. And if you are interested in building a career in this industry and you haven't created a GitHub account, I would strongly recommend it. It's another free site. We'll help walk you through it as part of all of our courses, but it's a great place to store your work. And Lauren, you asked about the apprenticeship programs. So yeah, Katie's already linked it. That's our apprenticeship program. You can also just search for apprenticeships or internships near me, something like Apprenticeship Software, Greenville, or Columbia, and see what you find. That's also something that connecting with our mentors, never trying to harp on that. There's lots of different pathways, but we've got a lot of really great folks who may be in your area and already have connections to programs. So connecting with our mentor coordinator and saying, hey, I'm looking for an apprenticeship. I really want to kick things off. They may be able to pair you with somebody in your area who knows the local companies and can point you in the right direction.
Yes, get on Slack.
Yes.
It's easy. Wonderful. These have been some fantastic questions. Well, great questions, y'all. And we have 5 more minutes. So any other final questions? If not, we can always wrap up a few minutes early. I did see a shout out to Nick for joining Slack while we were here in the session. So kudos. I would encourage everyone again to do that. And that way, you know, we're just a quick message away if you need anything. But I just want to thank you all so much for spending an hour with us this evening. Hopefully it was worth your time, and hopefully you learned a lot, and hopefully you there's a layer of maybe intimidation that's been washed away from coming in and joining our community. We truly are here to support you and see you succeed. So any way that we can help you do that, we're here. So thank you all so much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll be on the lookout for you all in our Slack community.
Thanks so much for giving us an hour of your time.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. So nice to meet y'all.
No worries, Ryan. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Everybody have a good one.